welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session, we're going to be focusing on integrating with third-party services using Helix iPaaS. Joining me today is quite a few presenters, and we've also got panelists that will help you during the session with any questions. So I'm going to just talk about all of the things that you can use today around your questions before I hand over to Rajesh, our product manager, who will introduce the rest of the team. So at the bottom, you should find the Q&A section of Zoom. If you have any questions during this session, please put them in there. We are also fortunately joined by Jitterbit. So again, if you have questions, make sure you put them in. We will endeavour to answer them during the presentation. Until that time, you will remain muted. And then at the end, we will come to live Q&A if you have any questions and you want to speak to the team. I'm now going to hand over, because we've got a lot to cover, to Rajesh to do the formal introductions. Over to you, Rajesh.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, my name is Rajesh Rane. I am the Principal Product Manager at BMC, managing Helix iPaaS. We also have Cody Dean, Principal Solutions Engineer at BMC. Cody will be helping us on the demo. And we have Nathan Becknick, our esteemed guest from Jitterbit. Nathan is the Global Director for Strategic Alliances. And we have been working closely with BMC. So Nathan, if you want to do a brief introduction about yourself and talk about the relationship that we have with Jitterbit and BMC.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh, and hello, everyone. Good day, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. My name is Nathan Becknick, and I've been at Jitterbit for 8 years. And for the last 5 years, we've been working closely with BMC to deliver this Helix iPaaS solution. Quite a bit of development and co-development has gone on to bring this solution to the market. Got a lot of great customers doing a lot of great things with Helix iPaaS. And if you're already one of those customers, thanks for being part of this. If you're thinking about Helix iPaaS going forward, hopefully this session is helpful for you. I will be on the Q&A panel. So if there's any specific questions around Jitterbit or even around Helix iPaaS, please feel free to put those in there. And we'll all monitor that and get you all the answers that you need, or schedule some follow-up time.
Thanks, Nathan. We also have Rakeli from the product management team. We have Aswant from R&D. They'll be helping us to answer any questions that come in during the presentation. So this is the agenda. On the agenda side, I will be covering what's new in Helix iPaaS. Cody will do a demo on the best practices in integration with third-party services using iPaaS. We will try to cover this session in like 40-45 minutes. And in the last 15 minutes, we will try to have a Q&A. So let me welcome everyone here. I am sure you might be keeping a track of the new capabilities that we are building in Helix iPaaS. It is one of the most successful SaaS solutions for BMC in the recent past. Our customer count is growing. We have been adding new customers every quarter on quarter. So there is a tremendous sense of excitement around the customers. We have been adding new capabilities in the product and have been able to differentiate us against the competition with its super rich offering. We are always here to delight customers. So very briefly recapping on our Helix integration strategy, we offer super rich iPaaS platform that runs thousands of customers, literally thousands and thousands of enterprise customers using different integrations use cases. We are also partnering with different vendors or third-party providers to build integrations so that we have a super rich platform that is sufficient for all of our customers. But we want to make our customers' life even better. So we are working with customers in identifying those common integration use cases across the customer base. And we want to double down on our investment in building new connectors, content, or templates that we are bringing in so that customers don't have to spend time. So there are pre-built integration templates that are available in the system. So they don't have to spend time and effort to build it in-house. It's like ready to use. And then obviously there are a set of customers who will have something which is very unique or unique to connect to from endpoints standpoint based on the line of businesses that they run. So then they have the super rich platform from which they can use and build these unique integrations called as custom integrations. So this is the top of the pyramid. So any integrations which are not available in the Jitterbit platform or from BMC, then they can go and build it using the generic REST connector that we have. So on the OEM side, we have a OEM relationship with Jitterbit. We are selling them as Helix iPaaS. We are also shipping a pre-built solution using Jitterbit as a platform or technology. We are also working with MuleSoft, where we are shipping pre-built content for MuleSoft. So the difference between Jitterbit and MuleSoft is that MuleSoft platform as such, we are not selling. If the customer wants to use MuleSoft platform, then they have to buy the platform directly from MuleSoft. We will continue to build common integration use cases using multiple software technologies and ship them. So there are certain customers that we have, like banks, which are purely on-prem, airtight environment, everything on-prem. We suggest MuleSoft to them. Also, for some of our public sector customers, we suggest like going with MuleSoft. And the Jitterbit platform that we have, they are in the process of getting FedRAMP certified. So until then, we have MuleSoft as a go-to solution. So literally, there are like thousands of connectors built by Jitterbit and the vendors that they have around, correct? So Jitterbit supports around close to more than 200 plus connectors, close to around like 230 custom connectors that they have built in. BMC has also built in good amount of connectors. So connectors supporting cloud, connectors supporting on-prem, connecting to databases, multiple array of endpoints that we connect to. And what you see on the slide is just a few of them. These are all general available. Whatever icons you see over there, they are all general available from Jitterbit and from BMC as well. This is a slide where we talk about different endpoints and the pre-built integration templates using Helix iPaaS. So you talk about any endpoints, any monitoring solution, any ITSM ticketing solution. Jira is the most preferred or the widely used connector that we have, and we have pre-built templates. In our last release, we have also given support for on-prem Jira instance. I'll cover that in my another slide. But this is not all the connectors, but just a glimpse of the connectors that we support along with the pre-built integration templates that we have. This is another slide that I talked about. This is basically we saying from BMC, correct? We connect to different endpoints. Jira is the most popular one based on the Helix request use case, but we also connect to Workday, Coupa, Splunk, Slack, and other endpoints. This is just another representation. Not all the connectors are over here, but these are some of the few BMC to third-party integrations that we do. And typically it's like, as I said, I'm not going deep into the technicalities of the platform, but it's a no-code configuration platform ready to use and ready to deploy. So that is where the power of the platform along with BMC templates comes in. So just a glimpses of it, what is generally available today. We had published around like 45 plus connectors and templates. This was like 2 years back when we did our last webinar, and then this is the next webinar that we are doing. So this is like 2 years back that is generally available with us. So in the meantime, Jitterbit has been releasing new connectors, our content. BMC is releasing pre-built content and templates. We will continue to do monthly releases. And in the last couple of releases, if you talk about like 23.3.03 and a couple of releases, these are the new connectors that we have built in. We have XMatter, we have App Dynamics, ALM Octane, and then we have done a little bit of what you say improvements around our existing connectors. Our multi-cloud broker connector and ITSM connector, where we support a 3LO or authentication mechanism that we have. Azure DevOps OAuth improvement that we have done. We have a TSOM connector. We have a business workflow connector, basically some improvements around the business workflow connector, plus the templates that we have done. So we have pushed a lot of new templates into the platform along with Jitterbit. In the last release, if you look over here, like the Cisco DNAC alert, which is a bidirectional integration template with ITSM incidents, this is fairly new. This went last month, and we have also done this. This is for like earlier we supported Jira, the cloud instance. Now we are supporting the on-prem instances of Jira. So I can go through all of these, but these are like some of the templates and the connectors that we have built. And as I said, we are doubling down our investment in building new connectors and new templates. What I have seen in the recent past is like there are a lot of vulnerability management use cases. We see over here, like we have done this with like Nessus and Qualys. And then we also have done this with CrowdStrike. We are getting a lot of requests to do some of the integration use cases where we get a vulnerability from any of these SIM tools. And in this case, it's tenable.io. We want to build that connector out. So a lot of excitement more around security use cases. Get a vulnerability from, like if you're getting a vulnerability from any of the scanners like CrowdStrike or tenable.io or any of this, the idea is to create an incident for that vulnerability in Helix ITSM. So that is what I see most of the use cases. Jira is the widely used connector. We keep on enhancing it. So that is what I have in terms of the features that are there in the platform. This is what we covered in the last couple of releases. If there are any questions, put them in the chat. We will try to answer them. So let me come to this important question around Helix integration service. We will continue to make progress with Jitterbit in terms of providing world-class integration technology for all of Helix solutions that we have. And this is our go-forward technology for integrations. Obviously, some of you are familiar who are using integration service that we have literally sort of put it on maintenance mode. No net new development or anything new on that offering. It is going to be end of life soon. We have built most of the connectors or the capabilities that are there in HIS into Helix iPaaS. So customers will move from HIS to Helix iPaaS. So there are a few customers who have already done this migration from Helix integration service to Helix iPaaS. But you will see a notification coming to these end customers also. We will be sending this EOL notification to all the end customers. Currently, if you go to his documentation, there is a statement of direction that talks about our approach, and our approach is like we will move existing HIS customers to Helix iPaaS. I'll quickly touch upon what multi-cloud broker is. It is a ITSM ticket brokering app. It is a purpose-built solution for ITSM ticket brokering, which is when you have like incident, change, problem, work order, known errors, all these record types, correct, in ITSM, you have an equivalent representation in a third-party system. So our goal is to offer a differentiated integrated solution out of the box for BMC. And that offering is called as multi-cloud broker. And the underlying technology on which it is built is Jitterbit. Earlier, we used to support Helix integration service, but we have taken out Helix integration service from multi-cloud broker since it is going end of life. So we'll only support multi-cloud broker on Jitterbit. And for all other apps, so this is only for the multi-cloud broker, as I said, is more for ITSM ticket brokering solution. And for all other apps like BHOM or BHOM, like BMC Helix operations management, digital workplace, business workflows, vulnerability management, they are packaged separately. So there are different connectors for it. So that is the way forward for us. So this is more like when Cody comes in and does the demo, correct? This is how these are 3 steps that are involved in basically in building a connector, building a template, deploying it, and managing it. Managing is more around like the day 2 activity. But from a design standpoint, the first thing is like connecting the endpoints. What is your source application and what is your target application that you want to connect to, correct? And then add the business logic or the rules around it. If there is any data enrichment or mapping changes that you want to make, you can make them and you can create a templates. We also support something called as cloud agents and private agents. So if you want to connect to a on-premise instance or endpoint, correct, which is on-prem, then you would need a license, which is basically an agent, Helix iPaaS agent or Jitterbit agent to connect to that on-prem instance, correct? So that's more from the deploy part, and manage part is more around how do you configure these agents, these end users, your environment, and then you start monitoring. So this is what I had to cover.
Thanks for Josh. So I wanted to give a quick update on the Jitterbit platform, since obviously Helix iPaaS is underpinned by the Jitterbit platform. And Jitterbit as an application or as a company is a full-featured iPaaS solution. So there's a few different components to this solution. And over the last year, we've obviously done quite a bit of updating, and we'll continue to do this. So the Helix iPaaS solution will then subsequently be updated as we release these updates. So some of the things that we've done on the API manager. So for those who don't know, the API manager is a full APIM component of Helix iPaaS and Jitterbit, where you can create, manage, and deploy real-time integration and create and manage URLs. So we've expanded the health monitoring and performance tracking, so managing those APIs that you do produce in Helix iPaaS, managing those or calling out any APIs that may be running slower, so you can remediate that, and then also simplifying how you publish those from the Integration Studio. On the Integration Studio front, this is where the actual integrations are built, managed, configured. So there were some requirements or requests to enhance the global connection management. So we've made improvements there. It's probably a little bit more in the weeds, and maybe something Cody would get into in a sidebar conversation to talk about that in more detail. But obviously, we're always enhancing our platform for the large ERPs like SAP. So one of the things that we did this year was updates to support connection pooling and also the real-time operation status visibility. All within the Integration Studio. On the platform side, so this would go across any of the components of Helix iPaaS. One of the biggest focuses we had was on authentication, so both two-factor authentication and three-legged OAuth, and then subsequently implementing those OAuth capabilities into the connectors. So I know for a lot of customers out there, security is very important. How you authenticate with these applications that you're integrating with is important. So the platform does support both OAuth 2 and then three-legged OAuth as deployed by the different applications. Rajesh mentioned that there's quite a few connectors available on the platform, so we're always looking to increase the number of connectors that are available, but then we're also improving connectors, right? So connectors are an abstraction layer for interfacing with a given application. So whether that's Jira or Workday, or really any application that's out there, the connector serves as an abstraction layer and simplifies that interaction of getting data in and out of those different applications. So a few that we worked on this year, and we've done over 40 for the year, but Azure OpenAI, Salesforce, and Microsoft Dynamics were a few on that list. Obviously, you can always find that full list in the release notes that are available, but the other piece that's available, or that is now available or improved, is on the agent. So Rajesh mentioned that there is a runtime component to this, and that could either be deployed in the cloud or on a private infrastructure. Those agents are the same regardless of whether you use the cloud or the private agents as far as the software behind them. But we're always trying to enhance those features, since it is the runtime. It is one of the core aspects of the platform itself. So we've increased the stability, improving the agent performance, improving how our high availability is managed. So that's the multi-agent support. So that way those operations are delegated more efficiently and then run smoothly. So all of these are available in our release notes. So those are hyperlinked here. I know these slides will be shared later. Anything that's BMC specific, so obviously we co-develop with BMC. So anything that BMC develops on Helix iPaaS is also available in those BMC release notes.
Thanks.
So at this point, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So thanks, Nathan. So Cody, all yours. So Cody will be doing a quick demo on how easy it is to build third-party integrations using Helix iPaaS.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you, Rajesh. Yeah, my name is Cody Dean. I'm a solution engineer here at BMC. Prior to coming to BMC, I was a BMC customer for many years, working on an automation team. And so I've been really close to what we've been doing over the years with integrations and automations. And I can truly say that where we're at with the iPaaS platform is unlike anything we've ever done before. So as we go through today, again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A. And if I don't get to them while I'm presenting, we'll get to them at the end and answer those. So what we're going to be going through today is both an out-of-the-box integration using our out-of-the-box Jira template, as well as showcasing how easy it is to build your own low-code, no-code type of custom integration. So what we're going to do is come into the demo as a code consumer who submits an issue in GitHub, and that will send that issue to Helix ITSM. Now, that piece is not a quote-unquote out-of-the-box template, but we have the connectors available using the Jitterbit platform. And I'll show you how easy it was to just draw those two components on the screen and connect them together. And then after that, we'll show how we can use the out-of-the-box template to take that integration to the next step and actually send that incident over to Jira for our developers to work on. So hopefully this shows the scope of the solution from end to end. And again, conveys how easy it is to get up and running with these types of integrations in your own environment. So we're going to start over here at GitHub. So this integration is actually one that I was asked about while sitting in a conference room with a customer. They said, hey, do you have any, we have our, the users that are deploying our code are going in there to GitHub and submitting the bugs for our developers. But right now it just goes to our development team and is bypassing ITSM.
Sorry, Cody, are you sharing?
What's that?
Are you sharing?
Yeah, it says I'm sharing my screen. Can you not see it?
Yes,
Sam, can you just confirm that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine, as long as everybody can see it.
Yeah.
So the customer was like, okay, well, we have the code, we have the users that are coming in and reporting issues in GitHub, and that's going over to Jira through some integrations that they built with scripts and things like that. They asked, do you have anything out of the box for GitHub? And we didn't have anything out of the box. But actually, during break, I sat down with the customer and said, okay, let's build this out. It takes 5 minutes to build this out, and I'll show you how easy it was to do it. So I've been using that same example in the demos because it shows really well, and I think it kind of conveys how easy it is to build these out. So as a code consumer, I can come into GitHub, and I'm just going to create a new issue. So I'm going to say, I had an open SSL error when deploying, and deploying caused an error. And when I click submit, as soon as I click submit, this is going over to the iPaaS platform, and that's going in and talking to ITSM and creating the incident in ITSM. So now that I've done that, I can come over to ITSM. I can refresh this page on my dashboard, and I'll have a new GitHub issue, and I'll have the open SSL while deploying. So we have the issue here. And if I click into this, I have my link back to GitHub. So I was actually able to build that out. So it goes over to GitHub. And if I need to launch into that, I can do that. And I've got all my information that was collected, the description and all of that stuff. Now you can build this out as robust as you want. I kept this simple for this particular use case, but we're pulling in the description, we're pulling in the summary. But now that it's in ITSM, I can take this and use the out-of-the-box integration that we have with Jira to actually send this over to my developers. So why do you want to do that? There's a number of reasons why you might want to keep everything centralized within the Helix platform. First and foremost is reporting. So with this information coming in from Jira, with this information coming in from GitHub, I can take and build out robust dashboards that say, here's my DevOps health, here's the number of issues that have came in, here's the number of issues that have came in through GitHub, here's the number of issues that my development team's working on in Jira, here's the number of issues we've closed. But also bridges that gap between the developers and the service management team if customers are calling in and maybe not using maybe they're not reporting issues through GitHub, if they're just calling in or reporting it to the service desk. Things like AISM now has the ability to pick up this information and correlate that with the issues that are coming in. So you could tell the customer, hey, there's, this is already a known issue. The developers are working on it. There's code that's going to be deployed, yada, yada, yada. So it brings that gap together, it brings those worlds together and makes it so your users get to work in the tool of their choice. Now, one of the cool things is because I have the Jira integration, as a service desk administrator, I get visibility into that DevOps process. So right from within the service ticket in ITSM, I have this Jira panel that tells me all of the information that's going on the Jira side as well. So it says, ticket ID, I've got the title, I've got the last update. And if they're, if they're end up pushing a fix, I can see what fix it is, if it's been assigned, the type and things like that. So I get visibility into the DevOps process from a service management standpoint without having to log into, in this case, Jira. So all of that information centralized. If I want to communicate with the developers, I can come in here and say, customer notified of update. And I can pick, do I want to share that with Jira? Yes, I do. And when I do that, it will actually go over and provide that update to my developers. So you can have a conversation. The developers can provide their updates right from within the work log in Jira. I can, as a service manager, be able to talk with the developers right from within here. So now let's switch over and look at the Jira side to just kind of see what that looks like from the developer standpoint. And then we'll go in and actually look at what it took to build out both this custom integration as well as this third-party integration. So if I come over to Jira and I refresh this page, I have that GitHub issue that came in. And once this loads, we'll be able to see all of the information that came in from the ITSM world. I can see the work log that I added. So I could see down here that the customer is notified. And again, if I wanted to add a comment, I could type the comment in here and it will go back to ITSM and update that as well. If I wanted to take this to the next stage and I wanted to say, okay, well, this is a bug within Jira. The next step from a bug is usually to provide a fix. So if I want to deploy a fix, I can do that right from within this integration too. So if I come in and say, I want to create a new epic and I want to deploy hotfix, we'll just put that in the summary, put that in the description. Come down here, select things like the development group, and there's a bunch of other things you can do with this integration. It's pretty deep. You can even go as far as saying, okay, development group 1 has a low risk score, development group 3 has a high risk score. So we have a whole dynamic risk calculation concept built into the Jira integration to help smooth out your DevOps process. So if you have low risk development groups that are doing their work and doing everything well, then you can just automatically approve their changes. Or if there's groups that need to have more insight and be watched a little bit closer, you can go in there and keep a closer eye on them. So if I come in here, click create, this will go out to ITSM and not create a change, not in this instance, create an incident. In this instance, it will actually go out there and create the change request for the change team to go out there and approve before the deployment happens. So there's those two levels of integrations that occur within the Jira integration. You can pick and choose which one you want to integrate, and we'll look at that in a moment. But that's kind of the end-to-end scope of, we had the code consumer come in to ITSM, and then from ITSM, we can hand it off to the developers to do their job and keep that all synced right from within the ITSM platform. So now, again, that was just showcasing what you can do with the integrations that we have in place. Now we're going to go and actually talk about how we did it and provide some best practices around how you actually do these integrations. So the integrations that we're going to start with, I'm going to start with the ITSM integration from GitHub, because that's a custom integration. So Rajesh talked about all of the templates that we have available. Nathan talked about the connectors that are becoming available and that are available. Now, as you're looking at the list of what's available for integrations with BMC, you're looking at the integration list for the templates. Make sure you keep in mind that you can build these out very easily. So the benefit of this platform is that it is a low-code, no-code integration platform. We support pro code if you do want to drop and do complex use cases, but the ability to come in and build out these integrations relatively easy, and then have it running and maintaining and managing it without having to have all of the overhead of scripts and developing teams and things like that, is really where the benefit comes from this platform. So this integration here is what is supporting that GitHub integration that we just looked at. So as you can see, it's 6 components, and actually 2 of these are transforms. So that's saying, hey, this data goes here to here. So really 4 different modules are what's supporting this 2-way integration to GitHub. So this top one here is what we looked at when we did the integration from GitHub, the new issue to ITSM. If you look at it and break it down, we have an API request coming in from GitHub, which is just the webhook that was set and configured within GitHub when there's a new incident. Most modern platforms nowadays have some sort of notification or webhook mechanism or an API mechanism that we can query. And if those platforms have robust API documentation, it makes your job that much easier. If it doesn't have API documentation, like if you don't know, okay, well, I don't know what payload is going to be sent from this platform, we have the ability to enable debug logging on these connectors and actually capture that payload and use that payload directly from the file that we're able to capture to define what that schema looks like. And I'll when I say schema, it'll make more sense in a moment. And then we have a number of BMC connectors that are available out of the box that do any number of create ITSM incident update query, change management, work orders, business workflows, all of the different BMC connectors that are available. And you configure those at a connector level. So if we come in here and look at what this connector configuration looks like, we put our username, password, put our environment in. And if you have token-based or anything like that, we support all of those as well. And then once you configure that connector, you get the ability to use the functions that are available within a connector. So I have like work orders, query, merge, create, update. All of these are underneath of this ITSM endpoint. So really easy to create and configure those connectors to be able to use. And this is just the BMC example, but if we scroll down here, you'll see, the ever-growing list of connectors that are available. And you can deploy these either on-prem if you want to, like we talked about the on-prem connectors, or most of them are available in like a cloud connector like we're using here, where it's just running on the Jitterbit cloud connecting into my Helix platform, and I don't have any on-prem components to worry about. So once you have the inbound and you have the outbound, the most difficult part in integrations is generally how do you transform that data from the inbound to the outbound? And that's really where Jitterbit shines. So what we do is this tool has the ability to do what we call transforms. So if I come into here and look at what this transform is what's taking the data and normalizing it from one tool to the other. So no two tools, even in the same platform, no 2 solutions are generally going to have the same, what we call schema. It's what the data looks like coming in and what the data needs to look like going out. So in this case, we have the GitHub request on the left-hand side, and I was able to pull this directly from the GitHub API. They had a sample JSON file that I was able to copy and paste right into the connector when I configured it. And then the right-hand side here is ITSM. This is already configured because we have that connector available. And then what you do is you just draw the lines between the two. So if we come and see like the title, you can see that I have the left-hand side here. I'll have to look and see, but let's see mapped fields. So we'll see that we have the title, and I was just able to click and drag that over from one to the other. So really makes it super easy to map that information from one side to the other. Now, if you noticed in my demo, I had the connector, or I had the description. I appended new GitHub issue, and I was able to do that through a transform. So I just appended onto that I just needed to add some wording onto there. So this is where you start getting into more of the low code to pro code of the solution, because you're not limited to just clicking and dragging, because a lot of times maybe you need to make the data lowercase. Maybe you need to build out a case statement to do mapping. Maybe the status in one solution is different than the status in another solution, and you could do case statements to match them up and things like that. We give you a toolbox on the right-hand side that you can leverage any number of these different functions, and you can click and drag these over. So if we needed to make it lowercase, I could say to lower, and if you click on it, it gives you the description of how to use that, and you can just click and drag that over onto the this down to the development pane or into the code pane over here, and you can leverage those toolkits as well. So we give you all of the tools that you need in those scenarios where you do need to do transforms. But my recommendation is to keep your integrations as simple as possible. Once you start adding complexity to it, if it's beyond what you need for that particular use case to bring value to your organization, you're just adding unnecessary overhead, you're adding unnecessary complexity to that particular integration. So if you can come in here and build these out, and you can build these out by just doing flat integration or flat transforms from one solution, one field to the other, I would recommend doing that. So keeping it as simple as possible. Another example of the integration, I built out the URL. So I wanted to add that URL from the GitHub into the ticket. So I was able to do the body and the URL all from right within the one transform as well. But really, that's the key to building out those integrations. So you have your inbound, you have your transform, and you have your outbound. Keep it simple, add complexity where needed, but keep it simple at all possible. And then down here, we have the opposite. So as I close that ticket out, I also want to close out the GitHub integration or the GitHub issue. And this is that same where I bring it in from a webhook from ITSM. I pass that over to GitHub. And this is actually using the GitHub connector. So anytime you see the little icon, we have the connector, which goes out there and close. I pass the incident or pass the issue ID, and I do a close on that incident ID. So this integration here, extremely valuable. If this is what your organization wants and this is what your organization needs, like I said, it took me maybe 5-10 minutes to come in here and build this out. The most time it was probably me going into the API documentation of finding out what that schema needed to look like, pull it into here, define my fields, publish this. So you'll see here, I have the ability to do deployments. So you can deploy these at a per operation level, or you can deploy it at a per project level. And once it's deployed to the cloud, then it's sitting there running, waiting for that code to come in from GitHub, and it's going to send that over to ITSM. So the platform itself has versioning built in. So if I push a version of code that all of a sudden breaks it and I need to roll back, I can come in and view my history, and I can actually roll back to previous versions. And I can come in here and enable debug logging. So I know there was a question in the chat about debugging and logging. You can do debugging at a per project level, or you can do debugging at a per operation level, or at a per connector level. And that will actually put debug logs into the operation log. And you can view things like the API log as well to be able to capture, like I talked about, that incoming packet to be able to use in your integrations. So really powerful platform. You don't need to be a developer to come in here. I like to say, as long if you can figure out how to build a Visio diagram of, say, your application environment or something like that, you can come in here and build out these integrations with ease, because it's just clicking and dragging them over and then figuring out what that data looks like from one side to the other. So this is an out-of-the-box integration, or this is a custom integration. Let's take a quick look at what it takes to deploy an out-of-the-box integration. Our out-of-the-box integrations, the Jira integration in particular that we showed, leverages multi-cloud broker because it needs to have that stateful table of information that says, hey, this is a ticket in one tool, this is the ticket in the other tool. But what that also allows us to do is use our quick start configuration mechanism to be able to help you deploy these operations and deploy these configurations. So if we come over to our multi-cloud broker tool and look at what it took for me to deploy this Jira integration, it's done right from within the quick start guide. Now, this is going to give me, when we get to the end of this, you'll see where we then go over to Jitterbit and iPaaS and we import that template. But there's things that need to happen beforehand. So it allows me to come into the quick start or the quick configuration guide. You can see in here we have different use cases. We have ticket brokering, we have DevOps, we have ticket consolidation, event SecOps. So these are all just different use cases that we have templates for these particular integrations that are available out of the box. If we click here and click expand out the DevOps, we see the ITSM incident to Jira. If you look at the other ones that are available in here, we have the same integration for Jira, for Azure DevOps. We have ALM. We have change management, which we kind of talked about, where I created the change, which sent it over to ITSM for the change request. So there's normally multiple different integrations for each solution. Just depends on what your use case is. Let's take a look at what it took to deploy the ITSM incident to Jira. Click there, click next. This gives me a list of things I need to do beyond what's just in the documentation. So this is kind of like a checklist that I can follow. There's some multi-cloud broker configurations that need to be done because you have to define the organization, you have to define your company, things that need to be done generally once when you're defining these, and then you can reuse them. The filter criteria, so this is when it's actually going to pick it up and do the multi-cloud broker integration. And then down here is the Jira integration pieces that are specific to this integration. So you'll see it's telling me to go out there and download this this JSON file. Now that you go out to the EPD site, same place you would go to download any of the other BMC products, it'll give you a JSON file. You log into Jitterbit, you click import into the Cloud Studio, and it will create that template. It'll create that project that we showed, but the BMC projects are a little bit more complex because we have to deal with a bunch of different scenarios. But the other nice thing about the BMC templates that we import is it's going to go out there and connect into your endpoints. It's going to configure your third-party endpoints. It's going to configure your Helix endpoints. And once that configuration is done, the integration's ready to go. So if you look at the different steps here, import to Cloud Studio, update the variables. You go in there, you update a handful of variables like your Jira URL, your Jira username or key or whatever authentication method you're doing. The criteria that you want to create that incident based on, because you might not want all incidents to create a bug within Jira, so you can define what those look like from a filter criteria. And then you deploy that template, and then you run what we call enable integration. And that enable integration is that piece that goes out to Jira, goes out to ITSM, goes out to multi-cloud broker, creates the webhooks where needed, creates the API interface in Jitterbit. And at the end of the day, when that enable integrations ran and finished, then you have a working integration in place for you to be able to leverage and start using within your organization. So again, the code and the workflow and everything is available for you if you want to extend it. We have documentation on doing things like I want to add additional fields, I want to modify the mapping, things like that. It's all available within our documentation if you want to extend it. But again, keep it as close to out of the box as possible. Extend when needed for your particular use cases. But at the end of the day, you just run that enable integration and it's working and you're ready to go. So makes it really easy. If you're just using the out of the box field mappings and you're using the out of the box integration, it truly is no code. You just fill out a few fields and you click enable integration. It goes out there and does its thing. So gone are the days of you having to be an expert in Jira. If you told me I need to go out to Jira and create a webhook, I would have to go out there and research how to do that before I actually can go out there and do it. Whereas with our integrations that we have and our templates that we have, it actually does that piece for you. And you no longer have to rely on a person that has expertise in that third party to create these integrations. So that is that's how easy it is to go out there and use our out of the box integrations. So we kind of covered what it looks like from an end-to-end standpoint when we went through the initial demo. We talked about how to use the Cloud Studio to be able to go in there and build out your own integrations in a no-code, low-code approach using that GitHub integration that we talked about. And then we wrapped it up by talking about a multi-cloud broker, how you use this quick start guide to go out there and deploy the configurations and deploy the integrations that you'd like to in your environment. So I'll leave it at that. Is there any questions? I know I saw some questions come into chat. I don't know if anybody wants to ask any, or we can save them for the Q&A section, but that's what we kind of wanted to talk about in the demo today. If you have any questions or want to see anything more in depth about what we talked about, feel free to reach out. That's kind of what I do on a day job. So I'd be more than happy to have some more discussions and talk deeper and look deeper into some of these use cases. So.
Okay, Rajesh, if you want, I can cover this slide. So our documentation team have provided us some extra resources for today. So if any of you are interested in finding out a bit more information, please use these links. We will be sharing out the slideware today, so don't worry about writing them down and trying to search on our documentation site. And again, to Cody's point, if you are looking for further interaction, there will be a survey that will come at the end. I will be sending this out within 24 to 48 hours. So if you've got any suggestions, you want us to run a webinar or you want some time with your company, reach out and I'll put you in contact with any of the presenters we've had today. I think it's a appropriate time now to move on to the Q&A because we've had quite a busy Q&A section. So what I'm going to do is just take the first question we've got in here from Pankaj. His question to the team was, how does BMC Helix create a ticket, in particular Jira project? If someone from the team can answer that, I will then open up the Q&A and for others to speak to us live as well. I don't know, Rajesh, who you think is most suitable to answer that question from Pankaj.
Yeah, I think the question was more around Jira to Innovation Studio, correct?
Yeah, so how does BMC Helix create a ticket in particular Jira project? So Pankaj, I don't know if you want to come off of mute as well.
So I can elaborate on this too, because I've been asked that before. So out of the box, the integration allows you to define the variable for what project you want to create that ticket in Jira. But there's nothing stopping you from then substituting that for a value that comes from your ITSM ticket. So if you have something in your ticket that matches up, like say a service or the application, or even one of like the opcats or something like that comes from your ticket, and you want to map that field up to what's in Jira for that project, you could do that. Because if you look at how the API call from Jira is, it just uses it substitutes in that value. So out of the box, it's hard coded for a particular project, but you can extend that to using a mapping from your ticket or your own environment. We don't do it because there's so many different variables, and every customer's probably going to do it differently. But you can absolutely, map that up. And if you wanted to have a discussion around what that would look like, we'd be more than happy to have an integration discussion to talk about what that looks like. So, Rajesh, I don't know if you or anybody on your team has anything to add to that. So,
no, I think if required, we can connect again later with the customer.
Okay. So Pankaj, do feel free to come off mute if you wanted to ask any other question. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next questions. Okay. So we had a question from Pete. Cody, this is a question for you. This is GitHub to Helix to Jira integration. It looks great. Does it offer the option to post back to GitHub, or is it just one-way relationship between GitHub and Helix Jira? I saw a checkbox for the share.
Yeah, great question. The one that I built, that second row of operations, that second box of operations, this one, I don't know if I'm still sharing, but the one that's down here where it says close GitHub issue, when the ticket closes, it closes out the issue. If you wanted to do a sync, if you wanted to send updates to comments and things like that, you would just have to configure the webhook to run on update and then take that information and parse it out and send it over to GitHub. So we were trying to keep it simple. And again, I built this out in a couple of minutes with the customer. But the sky's the limit. I mean, your imagination is the limitation when you start building out these integrations. So it's part of the reason why I love doing automation and integration work. So it's a great question though. So thank you.
Pete, if you can hear us, feel free to come off mute. And I don't know, Cody, if you was sharing your screen, you have to take back the share over if you wanted to show the example.
Oh, I showed it. Yeah, if you want to go back and look at it, you'll see it there.
Okay.
So, yep.
I wasn't sure if you were trying to share your screen.
No, it still said that I was sharing, but
no.
yeah, I see yours now that I stopped. So.
Hi, Cody. Yeah. Thanks. I think I can see what you wanted was just a quick and easy demonstration. I just thought that kind of checkbox where you posted onto Jira was really useful. I was just curious how bi-directional that could be. And I think what you're saying is, it's completely customizable. It can post back via webhook, and that's fine. It's just not something you configured in this demonstration. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I didn't add the comment integration or any of the fields, so I just did open and closing, because that's really what they were caring about. They simply used it as a mechanism to report issues for their developers without having to have people logging into Jira. So that was kind of the use case that we built out. But you could build that out as robust as you would need to. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for the answer. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the question. Do you have anything else, Pete, or shall I move on?
All good here. Thank you.
Okay. So there was another question for Pankaj. It was, could you please demo how Jira Connector is set up in Innovation Studio? So I'm not sure, Cody, if you're able to do that today, or it might be something we do a short video on.
So in the demo that we did, the part where I talked about running the enable integration actually goes out there and configures the piece that's in Integration Studio, which is essentially multi-cloud broker. There's no additional integration configuration that would be needed. If you need to use the connector within Innovation Studio, let's probably set up a follow-up for that, because that's a separate kind of use case or separate type of discussion. So
Pankaj, if that answers your question, if you can just reply back into the Q&A or come off mute and talk live. Hopefully that's answered your question, and you can reach out to us post-event. Okay. Next question was from Daniel. Daniel's question was, when we send an event to GitHub, what does the endpoint look like? Would it be similar to when we send it back from Jira, endpoint equals URL?
When I go to do the close GitHub, if I wanted to do something like update the issue instead of doing close, I would use the GitHub endpoint connector that's available within iPaaS. And so that configuration looks a lot like what we did with how I showed the ITSM connector configuration. So you go in there and put in your username, password, or your token and your endpoint and things like that. And then you get a number of different operations you can do. So you can do update, query, merge, all of those different things like we talked about for all of the different objects that are available within GitHub. So if you wanted, it really depends on what you want to do. In my case, I just send a close. So one of the operations is close, which is close ID, and I just send the ID. So I think that's kind of what that's talking about. I don't have to worry about the schema because Jitterbit and the iPaaS platform knows what that schema looks like because it's an out-of-the-box connector. And then it's just mapping those fields across each other. So the only field I had to map in this case was parse out the GitHub ID, which I have because I have the URL in the description. So I actually parse out the ID from that, and because that's the only place I noted what that was. And then I pass that over to GitHub and say close it. But if you wanted to do an update, or if you wanted to sync over statuses or anything like that, you could just do the mapping between the fields. So hopefully that answers that question. But it looks a lot like any of the other connectors that we kind of talked about.
Thank you.
Daniel, did you have any further questions, or did that answer everything?
Yeah, for now, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next question we got in was, has the bug been fixed in the Jira integration so you can create multiple issue types in Jira instead of hard coding the Jira issue type?
I will leave that to Rajesh and his team.
Aswad, are you able to hear this question? This was
So
regarding
yeah, so the question was, has the bug been fixed in the Jira integration so you can create multiple issue types in Jira instead of hard coding the Jira issue type?
Maybe I can sense that there's a single operational flow, right? So we can always pause that issue type as a request parameter in the Jira request transformation. That way we can achieve that multiple issue types which we can create in that operation. It was saying if somebody is asking like that, the same operation will create multiple issue types. I think it's not.
Okay, I'm not sure who asked that question because it's anonymous. If that answers your question, let us know. We will follow up with an actual blog post with all the details in. Thank you, Ashwant, for answering that one. Next question is, after publishing the project with the integration flow, is it necessary to publish URL from API Manager in Jitterbit?
So when you do the enable integration part for out-of-the-box integrations, it will create the API for you automatically because that's how it knows what to configure in your third party. So no, if you're using the out-of-the-box integration flow, then you don't need to. But if you want to create a custom API endpoint for like the GitHub integration that we showed, you go into API Manager, create that, and that gives you the URL to communicate with. So it's one of the benefits of the platform is to be able to easily create those endpoints for webhook integrations and things like that. So great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Okay, next question we have is from Daniel again. When we send an event from GitHub, what does the endpoint look like? Would it be similar to when we send it back from Jira endpoint? Oh, sorry, I've just realized it's still in there. I should have sent that over to the answered. Mark asks us the question, ticket exchange with other clients with their own ITSM, be it Helix or ServiceNow or HPSM, etc. I'm not sure if that's really a question.
Well, yeah, that's so
Yeah.
when we were in this case, we talked about DevOps integrations. One of the other categories that we saw in the multi-cloud broker when I was doing the configuration quick start guide thing, there's ticket brokering. So we have ticket brokering between a number of different service desks, and that could be ServiceNow. And what that'll do is sync up the tickets between all of them, much like we did with the Jira. So we have a number of those, what we call ticket brokering scenarios that we support with out-of-the-box templates. So yes, we have the ticket exchange with those third parties. So, and we could provide a list of those, or I think it'll be in when we get the content in the slides. One of the slides that Rajesh showed had the integrations that we have, and you'll see which ones are available.
We will obviously put a bit more commentary in the Q&A post-event. I'm just making note, Cody, that you answered this, and we'll give the commentary to Mark. Mark, hopefully that answers your question if you're still on the call. We have a lot of questions. I will try to take a couple more, and I can also see, Pete, you've raised your hand, so I'll come to you shortly. So another question in the chat was whether Jira Connector will handle custom fields from a particular project. If yes, is there any limit? It's from Menath.
Yes, you can do custom fields. I don't think there's a limit. We actually in our documentation for the Jira integration walk you through mapping those custom fields. Part of it's going out and getting the custom field ID and then going in and adding it to a particular part of the workflow. But we document how to map those custom fields with your integration and Rajesh and team. I don't think there's probably a limit, but if there is, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, Menath, did you want to speak? I've seen you've come off mute. Can you hear us? I don't think your audio is working. Maybe you could reply back into the chat. I will take one more question, then Pete, I will come to you because I'm conscious we are on the hour, and any questions for everyone that has put them in the chat, we will answer those. Nathan, I can see you're answering the question I was going to pull from Kevin. We own iPaaS without MCB. Are we able to leverage any out-of-the-box templates, or will we have to build everything you did with GitHub? So Nathan, if I can ask you to also answer that question live, that would be great, and then follow up in the chat after.
Sure. Yeah. So there are templates available that are outside of MCB. I'm going to reply with documentation that links to those. So there are templates available, and obviously you can do bespoke as you mentioned there as well. But there are templates available.
Kevin, if you do want to come off mute and speak at the same time as well while we've got Nathan on this call, or just to let us know that that's answered your question. Can you hear us?
No, that's fine. That answers.
Okay. Okay, thank you for your question. So, Pete, I will come to you. My final person for the question. And then, as I mentioned, any of the other questions that are in there, the team will take these offline and we'll answer those back and send out a blog post with recording and any extra details that we can share that will be helpful from today. And obviously, we'd love to hear from you if you would like to have some ideas around other sessions you'd like us to run, or even if you want to be put in contact with any of the team, I can help sort that out for you. So if we
Samantha,
can take a last question. Yeah.
hi, this is Mainant. So I have a
hello.
question to Cody. So we are using like on-prem Jira 9 version, 9.x version. So we have quite number of custom fields, like it was like around 300 plus custom fields in Jira, and we are not able to fetch all the custom fields in that schema. So is that because of that limitations which Jira connector is going to fetch out, or like is it something? So is there any limitations on the field types?
I know that the on-prem Jira is a fairly new connector, so I'll probably let Rajesh and his team talk about it. But from a best practice standpoint, also consider the fields that are going to be valuable in your service management process when you're looking at what you're going to pull over. I know a lot of customers that I work with, the first thing they'll want to do is pull over anything and everything that's available. But then when you start looking at, okay, how are you going to use this in business practices? We start narrowing down what is needed and get that to a fairly short list. Because again, the more fields you add, the more complexity you're adding. You're just stacking that house of cards even higher and higher and higher. So as far as the limitation, I'll let Rajesh and his team, or if you end up still having issues after this call, we can set up a follow-up and talk to support or whatever we need to talk to for that. But I'm not sure on the answer of that.
Okay. And I have one more question on the ADO connector. So I have like out of the box is like incident to bug. So I don't want to sync it to bug. Maybe I would like to create a custom work item type, and I want to sync it. But the work item type and the ADO connector is not fetching my custom things. So what is the best approach or the suggestions to bring those custom work item type to the ADO connector?
I'll take this question. Yeah, hi, Mayat. So I believe it should have fetched. So yeah, we will look at this. So it should have fetched the custom work item types. So I'll just go through that documentation. I will let you know in this chat. Yeah.
Sure, Ashwin.
Okay, thank you, Maneth. I'm going to just ask Pete, did you still have your final question? I know you put your hand up raised. Can you hear us?
I can, yeah. Sorry, I think we're
okay.
probably out of time for this. Cody, I was just curious. I know Pankaj asked something similar this before, and you alluded to it. I'd be really interested to see what happens if something simple was broken in your demonstration, and kind of like how the tools could maybe lead you towards what it might be.
Yeah.
I don't know how much extra time you have if you deliberately broke something, if that's viable to see how it looks. But if it's something that we haven't got time for, I would be happy for you to do maybe like a short little screen recording and maybe just pop it over, whatever's easiest for you. But Happy Path is always great. Love Happy Path, but I'd love to see kind of how it looks when there's something that's broken and how easy it is to diagnose that and fight and solve it.
Yeah. We can provide, and I think Nathan might have provided a link to the troubleshooting, but that's one of the things I like about the platform. Most development platforms, you have to hard code in some sort of compensation plan when things fail. In the GitHub or in the Jitterbit process, you can do that. You can say when this operation fails, drop to this and do, send an alert or send an email or send or whatever, which we do in our out of the box templates. But generally, most of the time, leveraging the debug option, which puts the information in the activity log. If I'm having issues, I can go in there, enable debug, and I can capture that and see exactly what's going on and where it failed and what needs to be fixed. Is enough when I'm trying to fix stuff. You can also go in there and one thing we didn't get to is the management console And so you can go in there and see at a high glance the number of successful operations, failure operations, and you can start pinpointing down to problem operations within your organization. So if you have 100 projects going, you can say, okay, well, these ones are all running well, these 4 are having issues, and then you can start clicking into them and troubleshooting and figuring out why those ones are having errors more than the other ones. So there's a whole management studio that's in the integration studio that gives you visibility into all of your processes, which is really powerful. So, but we'll provide some information around troubleshooting. And again, if you have any other further questions beyond that, feel free to reach out. So.
That would be great. Thanks, Cody. Yeah, I did see the link that Nathan provided, and I had a quick scan of it. I thought that was great. I think it'd be really good just to see maybe how it looks in that kind of nice GUI icon-based world, where everything looks, like you say, low code, no code. I'd love to see what kind of feedback is there, but appreciate we're out of time for that. So I don't know what the best way to maybe get something like that from you is, whether it's to pop you an email or if it's something that's already available on the BMC website somewhere. So whatever would be the easiest way to see, or on the Jitterbit website to see whatever is a good demonstration of, okay, when it breaks, this is kind of what it looks like, and here's how you would start digging into that.
Yeah, I think we can provide it in the content that we publish after this. So.
Thank you, Cody. It'd be really helpful. Thank you so much, everyone.
I just have one last question. So, is it like maybe Cody or someone? So, I want to sync all incident change, problem, and work order from one tool, like from ITSM to maybe ADO. So, whether I have to build as a kind of a separate project for each module, or it would be great we can achieve it in one project.
Yeah, we can do that. But whatever the out-of-box solution which we have provided, right? So it caters each individual type. So, but if a user is going to create a individual, so he can achieve that way. And so he can definitely do that.
Yeah, we keep it separate from a template standpoint, just because not all customers are going to want everything. But keep in mind that from within a single template, you can have as many API inbound endpoints as you want, and you can call as many outbounds as you want, and you can break them down. We were just looking at 1.0 as far as the project organization, but you can have multiple components within a project that has multiple operations within them. So if you wanted to consolidate them down to a single project, you could do that, and you could either leverage the out-of-the-box content and pull it into a single one, or you could build it out from there. So there's really when we were building, so I mean, you'd want to look and see what kind of benefit it would bring you to have it all in one, because again, you're creating one single big complex project versus having smaller manageable ones that you can look at and say, okay, well, this particular piece is having issues. I know it's the, ITSM issue or ITSM to issue integration, and I know exactly which project to go into versus having to dig through a single one if you have them all consolidated. So really just depends on what kind of value it would bring you in that kind of effort. So